And go. Welcome to the FU Show, Season 2, Episode 2. So what happened with Robinhood GameStop? Well, here's the thing. To quote Michael Milken, the best investor is a social scientist. So to make sense of what's happened, I think you need to go back a few decades and realize how throughout the 20th century, owning stocks became a bit more democratic, right? The Smith family could buy shares in Coca-Cola, hold on to them, and over time use the proceeds to live off, in retirement. Then in like the 70s, 80s, 90s, you saw the democratization of investing through mutual funds where you could kind of pool assets and invest in a broad basket of equity investments. In the 21st century, and I think 27's Lehman meltdown accelerated this with the rise of fintech and just a disintermediation of industries, I think you've seen consumers basically invest as consumers, meaning if they use Google or they have an iPhone, they will kind of look to those companies and basically think like that, which if you fast forward to 2020 and 2021 explains a little bit with what happened with GameStop. So in 2020, the stock market effectively replaced sports betting, casino gambling in Vegas, and just drove a lot more discretionary income behind the demand for stocks. And so when you look at companies that sometimes have valuations that are greater than what their fundamentals suggest, you will historically have short sellers who target that stock, hoping that, hey, if over time the stock is worth less, they could basically sell the stock and then after the fact retroactively buy it at a lower price, booking themselves a profit. Robinhood, basically presented itself, as their name implies, as this new flag bearer representing individual consumer investors. And I think what happened last week when they basically changed the rules of engagement, allegedly, a lot of people cried foul, called for people to go to prison. And so anybody that kind of tells you this is exactly what happened is kind of bullshitting. But I will tell you what I think would have been probably cool to happen, humor me, if this was like kind of, a billions type show. So I think at the end of the day, the National Securities Clearing Corporation, the NSCC, asked Robinhood to post more money, initially $3 billion, then 1.4, and ultimately agreeing on $700 million to basically ensure that they could deliver their role as a clearinghouse. Now, who basically pushed for that? Was it the U.S. government? Was it the Biden administration? Or was it some people accused Citadel's Ken Griffin as maybe playing behind the scenes to make that happen? Now, why Citadel? So Citadel is actually two things. On the one hand, Citadel Securities is actually Robinhood's biggest source of revenue because they are the ones that pay the no-fee trading app Robinhood to handle its orders. Obviously, Ken Griffin is behind Citadel Securities. But Citadel is also the hedge fund, and Griffin, along with Citadel, allegedly had invested $2 billion in Melvin Capital, which had lost 53% of its value in January alone, largely due to its exposure to GameStop, which it had shorted. Now, Congressman Rohit Khanna, a California Democrat, actually called out saying that we must investigate. And while Robinhood has said that no, nobody such as Citadel asked us to do this, it was the NSCC, I would probably say that at the very most, it is possible, allegedly, if I was script writing this fantasy scenario, I think it's not crazy for Citadel to have said, look, if Robinhood wants to keep propping up this market, we'll call it amplification or market manipulation, then they need to pony up more and more capital as kind of collateral to backstop these trades. To justify the crazy amount of volume that led to the short squeeze, to the letter of the law of the agreement said it had to be $3 billion, then they agreed on $700 million. I think it's more possible that maybe anybody on the hedge fund side at something like Citadel was not directly involved. But Chinese walls aside, is it possible that somebody on the right hand let it be known to somebody on the left hand that Robinhood could no longer enable the massive amount of trading that led to the short squeeze? I don't know. But judging on that, I will leave you with that food for thought.